HowExpert! Top 10 Ultimate Frisbee Tips. HowExpert publishes quick, how-to guides on all topics from A to Z by everyday experts. Visit HowExpert.com to learn more. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more HowExpert Top 10 videos in the future. Moving on, let's talk about the HowExpert Top 10 Ultimate Frisbee Tips. Number 10. Stall counting. The stall count is the 10 seconds that a player has to throw a disc before there is a turnover and the other team is on offense. The defensive player, that is guarding the offensive player with the disc, in Ultimate, this person is called the mark, has to count out loud, starting with stall 1, 2, 3, and so on. An imposing opponent ominously counting can be nerve-wracking. Possession of the disc is known to cause panic in newer players, and some solid advice from Ultimate Frisbee HQ is to pretend that stall ends by 9 instead of 10 and to throw on 8. Last-second throws have a huge rate of being throwaways, and the key to success is to always maintain possession of the disc. Number 9. Look up when the disc is higher up. This tip might sound horrifyingly obvious, and yet a common mistake with novice players is to jump without looking up. The head doesn't naturally move up when a person jumps. Hence, a new player needs to train themselves to track the disc when jumping, right to the moment when they snag that disc. Number 8. Turn your back to the person marking you. As mentioned before, an opponent doing everything they can to mess up a player's throw is inherently stressful. When an offensive player faces downfield towards the end zone the offensive team can score in, all they will see is their opponent impeding every throw. A great trick can be for the player to turn their back to the mark. Normally, ignoring problems won't help, but this is the one time where ignoring the issue is the perfect solution. This trick works because a defender has to choose between opening up the downfield or trying to shut off any possible pass. Most defenders will choose to protect the downfield and the end zone and instead leave open the less valuable backfield for an easy dump pass. The dump pass is a short throw to a handler. The handlers are the 3 players that control the flow of the disc. They are normally explained as the quarterbacks of Ultimate. The dump pass to a handler should be the bread and butter for a beginning Ultimate player, which makes this little trick invaluable. Number 7. Turn your head before you turn your body. Ultimate welcomes athletes and non-athletes alike. This creates a wonderful meshing of backgrounds that can create a fun team dynamic on the sideline. It can also create mild confusion on the field. If Ultimate is a player's debut sport, field awareness is probably something this person has never considered before. How can a new player not only figure out what they are doing, but keep track of the 13 other players on the field as well? One small trick to help build field awareness is for the player to keep their head on a swivel. New players almost always start out as cutters. The cutters are the 4 players that try to get open for the handler to pass to and move the disc farther downfield towards their end zone. Ultimate involves non-stop cutting, which means a lot of field is being covered and sharp turns are very important. If a player turns their head before they turn their body for a cut, it can help the player to be more quickly aware of the new area of field they are running towards. Awareness starts with perception, and what could be more helpful than perceiving something as early as possible? Number 6. Move to where the disc is going. Long field throws, hucks, are bound to happen in every Frisbee game, except the windiest of days. Players need to be prepared to read the long throw if they want to be real contenders in the downfield game. Instinct might tell a player to head straight towards their disc, but the key is to work smarter and not harder. A disc will often be tilted slightly, and the receiver should move farther towards the direction in which the disc is slanted. Half of beating another player to an above-heads disc is about getting in the better positioning before the jump. Reading the disc will have a massive impact on a player's downfield success. Number 5. Keep your chest perpendicular to the ground. If a player has the disc in Ultimate, chances are high that they have a mark on them. The mark's goal is to either fluster the player into a bad throw or cause the player to stall out and therefore turn over the disc. The thrower needs to have a few tricks up their sleeve to get around the mark. They do this by creating a range of different positions which they can still get off quality throws. A go-to position that is very hard for a mark to cover are low throws. The problem with low throws is when they go straight into the ground. A tip for avoiding the deflating pass to the pitch is for the thrower to keep their chest high. Think of proper lunge position. If a player starts low with their chest upright, they can throw a perfect pass right into teammates' hands instead of at their feet. Number 4. The palm should face down when a player throws. There are many bad habits that can develop in an Ultimate player's throws. One such habit is jerking their elbow to snap off a throw. Like many sports, finesse beats force. Besides a full field throw, also known as a huck, Ultimate throws should be easy. A common mistake is to try and throw the disc hard so as to get the disc quickly to its target. This throwing style might result in some singular great results, but overall, the player's throws will be erratic and unpredictable. Speed will come with time, but proper form should come first. If a player focuses on keeping their palm face down when throwing, their elbow and wrist will be unable to jerk the throw. This tip benefits the body as well, as tendinitis can result from long-term unhealthy throwing styles. Number 3. Mini games of 3-on-3. Ultimate is played with 2 teams of 7. That means there are 14 people running around on a field. Sometimes it can be hard for a new player to really get in the game, even if they are on the field. Mini games of 3-on-3 can allow a new player the chance to get their hands on the disc and try dumps, downfield throws, or maybe even a mini huck. The shorter field for minigames can also allow a player to understand field awareness. 3 players might not sound like a lot, but even such a low number can cause crowding, confusion amongst players, and uncoordinated cuts. After consistent practice with minigames, a player will better understand how to allow space for their teammates, the flow of the disc, a variety of throws, and probably some pretty killer give-and-go movement. Short, quick passes between players that can very quickly get them down the field. Number 2. Communicate on the field. Ultimate is confusing by nature. The disc can change locations in seconds, and suddenly, a player that was in a great position is now in everyone's way. Teams that have great flow have figured out how to communicate to each other on the field. New players can unintentionally wreak havoc on a team's strategy when they don't know the lingo or are not yet conditioned to respond in the right way. The essential Ultimate terminology a newbie should know before a game is up, which means look up, and is normally shouted by the sideline for players that are running for a huck. I'm in, which means that someone else is going to cut and other players need to give them the necessary space. I'm out, which is the clear inverse of I'm in, although it is advisable to wait a second or two to allow for the players to clear the area before someone else cuts in. And deep, which is typically called by the mark, and lets their teammates know that they need to look downfield for the disc. The terms may seem obvious, and yet many newer players sometimes ignore their teammates' attempts to communicate with them because they assume it is not addressed to themselves. A good idea is to react to all communication on the field until a player begins to gauge when the call is for someone else. Number 1. Crowding the handlers. Space is everything in Ultimate. The handlers need space to be able to assess the field and decide to whom they will throw. The cutters need space to have time to fake out their defenders and make a viable cut for the handler. If cutters are too close to handlers, the cutter gives their defender the opportunity to encroach on the handler's space and make any throw much harder. Consequently, the rest of the cutters may be unable to cut in because at that point it would only be adding more bodies to a mess of a situation. Many a new player has unintentionally shut down any other possible cuts and therefore brought their team's strategy to a screeching halt. This dilemma is normally caused by the disc advancing down the field and the new player being slow to assess the change in field position. This also frequently happens when a new player, uncomfortable because they aren't sure at all what they should be doing, slowly creeps back up the field towards the handlers. The phenomenon is so common amongst new players that every Ultimate player understands and probably remembers when they did it too. An easy trick to avoiding this beginner's mistake is to keep an eye on the other cutters and maintain the same distance from the handlers. If you liked our video, be sure to click like and subscribe for more HowExpert Top 10 videos for all topics from A to Z in the future. Also, let us know what other topics you want us to do a HowExpert Top 10 video in the future in the comments below. Thank you, have an amazing day, and take care. HowExpert publishes quick how-to guides on all topics from A to Z by everyday experts. Visit howexpert.com to learn more.